This podcast is recorded on the traditional lands of the Boonwurrung and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to their elders and acknowledge their connection to this land. There's no justice without First Nations justice. Welcome to Second City, a place where every week we'll be asking and trying to answer, if the first city falls, how do we want to live together in the second city? Hi Alex, hi Lerna.
Hello
Hello,
Sonya.
my loves. Hi. So today we're going to talk about aspiration and what aspiration has looked like in the first city and what does it look like in the second city going forward. So I wonder if someone can get us started on this subject. What comes to mind for you when I say the word aspiration? Is it like hope, right? And goals and hopes for the future and vision?
Yes.
And as I've mentioned before, I've got hope tattooed on my arm. It's a very big deal to me. Maybe because it's been hard to hold on to.
Yeah. Like I think for this city that we're in now, aspiration means, you can get really successful in your job and you're going to have lots of money. It's very materialistic and really superficial and shallow. And
what was that awful horror movie where the guy is obsessed with a font on his business card? Is it American Psycho? Yeah. When I think of material aspiration, like the supercharged hyper materialism, that's what I imagine. Font obsessions.
I think in the second city, it's more soulful, hope, and everyone has a roof over their heads. It's more basic necessities for humanity and the better societies. That's how I picture it.
When we talk about aspirationals at work, it's a very specific cohort of people with, particular demographic qualities and political orientations and all that sort of stuff. And sometimes, we can joke about them, whatever. But the thing is, I have like these really hardcore materialist tendencies myself. And I was joking with Sonya yesterday about how much I love my Macca's triple cheeseburger and how much I fucking love Temu. And you will take that out of my cold, dead hand. And I know Temu's like evil and does terrible things to the environment, just as any kind of low-cost thing that is filling our world up with trash does. And I also understand that it's designed to be like pokies, where you have intermittent variable reward, where you're not sure if what you're going to get sent is actually going to hold up after more than one use, but you get better at the game, and so you get better at picking the stuff that's actually useful. And in my conception of second city, there's a capacity for like the material urge to be sated, like not just what people need, but also what people want. Somehow, and I'm not smart enough to know how, it can be done without destroying the planet and destroying each other through slavery and exploitation.
I never thought about the deliberate addictive nature of Temu sending you shit.
And what about for you? What's your vision? Like when you think of aspiration in the second city, what do you think that looks like for you?
All right, so I have a confession here, which is that when I read the notes for this episode, I drew such a blank. And it actually, whatever it was that I used to have in this space, I've closed down. And it sits in the same category as I used to be obsessed with, you know that TV show Grand Designs? Used to be obsessed with watching. I
love that show.
Right? People knew I loved it so much, so everybody gave it to me for my birthday. And there was a point where I realised, I can't watch that anymore. I can't watch any of that stuff anymore. I cannot bear the pain of longing and of aspiration. And so I've closed it down. I don't have that part of my heart open anymore at the moment.
Because it's something that you can never attain for yourself.
I can't see beyond the end of the year for myself and my family. Like my partner and I, we go to work to pay for the bills we already have and worry about catching up.
So then I would say, as an aspiration for the second city, this has to be removed. Everyone has the security and the basics of what they need to not have that worry, so that they can then dream and imagine something, to live a dream that they want for themselves.
Yeah, so maybe my aspiration is to have hope again, is to have aspiration again. Yeah. Because I do think that then when everybody collectively shuts down, that's when you're the frog in the boiling pot, aren't you? As a whole society, you just lower your expectations across the board and stop asking for much. I watched a reel on Instagram the other day of a woman who she'd had an oral cancer, and as part of the surgery for that cancer, she'd had her parts of her jaw and her teeth removed. And because dental's not in Medicare, she couldn't afford to replace her teeth. I think it might have been on ABC. Like, how low are our expectations that we can't even give a woman teeth, but we've just cut a $1 billion minerals deal with the US and given Trump $1 trillion of our superannuation, and we're going to throw another $374 billion towards submarines we'll never see.
Yeah.
And this woman doesn't even have teeth, and she can't eat because she doesn't have teeth. She can't chew. She can't get food in her mouth.
Yeah, she was saying if you have breast cancer, you can get reconstruction.
You get a reconstruction because it's below your neck.
Yeah, but because it's in her mouth, there's no reconstruction for her unless she was going to have to mortgage her house. Yeah.
And I think the same thing about giving mental health care support, again, above the neck to my child. Like, can I afford this? What extra work do I have to take on?
So for me, that's the kind of thing, the level that I think of when I think of aspirations for Second City. And I think a lot of people that are tuning into this episode will be very similar to you, Sonya. And life is so cutthroat that they don't have the bandwidth to think of anything else besides surviving every day. And it's too painful to dream of what others have and what you wish you could have. So you close it off. Yeah. So maybe in this episode, we can try and light the spark of hope in you and in everybody else. Maybe that should be the point of this podcast.
So what I was going to say before was the aspiration that I have that is both in my life and at work is that we get everybody the things that they need that are too expensive for individuals to be able to budget for, like, as individuals. Like, we're not designed to be able to ourselves budget for like really massive health expenses, the really big educational expenses like schooling and university. We're actually not meant to be able to do that. We're meant to socialize these things. And like the happiest countries on earth have done that. So once we do that, then everyone has like the wiggle room to be able to aspire to the stuff that matters less, if that makes sense. And I go for this like walk around my house every day, and there are a couple of houses that are really, really old in the neighborhood that are like heritage listed houses, and they're enormous. And I used to think to myself, oh, if only one day I could be rich enough to live in one of those, knowing that like that's never going to happen. And then like something just occurred to me yesterday, like, hold on, my house isn't like glamorous, but I've got this this little backyard that is like, there's a grapevine there.
Yes.
And I get to sit
beautiful.
on my deck and work
and your
there.
fairy lights.
And my fairy lights, right? And it is the most joyous place on earth. And what if I had to live inside that place, like these old dark houses? What would my level of happiness be? Like, is there a point other than being rich? And then once you're that rich, you need to be richer. Like, you think Elon Musk feels like he's got enough stuff? I don't think he does. Does Jeff Bezos? He keeps injecting himself with shit. I don't think he feels like he's got enough. And otherwise he'd pay his workers more. Yeah. Right? So it's never, ever going to be enough. So if you have the little things that delight your eye and you're not panicking about the things that should have been socialized, like, maybe that's the core or part of like the Second City aspiration.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just reminded then that today Billie Eilish, I think she received a music award, and she stood up and on the stage she just said, there's a lot of people in this room that are a lot richer than I am. I'm going to give $11 million toward funding food for children and other actions, perhaps to help replace this, the SNAP supports that have been removed from kids in the US.
She's so
and
good.
then said, I know, right? What
My
a power
daughter
move.
sent it to me yesterday.
It's
she said,
so great.
She goes, there's lots of billionaires in here. So what are you all doing?
No hate, shorties. Give it away. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, amazing. Alex, when you were speaking then, I was reminded that you've written an essay on private splendor, public squalor, which actually it was your fairy lights when you were talking about that. I was like, yes, wow, that's the private splendor I'm here for. As we know, massive fairy light fan. Talk us through what that piece was about.
So
is that relevant?
It's absolutely relevant in as much as why do people, like a lot of educated middle class folks feel like they can't understand why anyone would fall for a Trump style figure. And this was my attempt to explain how people in different information environments from you who are very smart, but they're not consuming the same info as you, can be tricked into thinking, well, the state has failed me already in every way, and the state has been kind of denuded of its capacity to serve me as it once did, or maybe never has if you're young. And so why would you trust the state anyway? You're going to believe the businessman when he says life is shit and your personal success can only come at the expense of an outgroup that we fuck.
Right. So zero-sum game. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So if we fuck the immigrants, for example, you are going to have much more of a chance of being rich.
Yeah, I see. Yes. Again, it's the closed economy, right? This, which to my mind just falls to pieces when you realize how much money is spent on stupid things like submarines or whatever.
Yeah. And there's a lot of money flowing around the rich nations that just stay in a very particular spot up the top. It never trickles down. Never. It's been completely debunked by any serious economist. They don't sit on that wealth because they've worked harder than the cleaner, than the mother, than the nurse, than the teacher. They have not worked harder. Other people under them have worked very, very hard to accumulate that wealth for them, and they don't see the benefits, but they pay most of the tax.
Yes. Well, and this reminds me that I think there was a statistic that America's richest 3 people have more money than 150 million other Americans have, just as a comparison of resources. And then so how is it possible that any one individual works 1 billion times harder than someone else who's already quite hardworking? It's preposterous to think of.
And that's where second city aspirational thinking has to come in. Like I read yesterday, like for example, the ACTU said we want, we have to tax 25% of gas exports, and that money will go to building more public housing. That is aspirational thinking. We need more of that kind of thinking from our leaders and from our society to push us into a second city way of living with second city aspirational thought. This is what needs to change.
Yeah. And to have those sort of entities, have the courage to speak out and put a number on the table and point at it. Especially entities that have sometimes been beholden to governments and haven't wanted to go against what they're saying, like the labour union movement, rather. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so good that they had the guts to say that. And, if someone as big as an organisation as big as the ACTU say it, and then the people, we hear it, this is where your 3.5% will then start to make a difference.
It normalises asking for more.
Yes. And then if you can bring the people along, well, I'm sorry, the government's going to have to act eventually, surely, aren't they, Alex? I mean, surely.
I think in a democracy, even in an autocracy, 3.5% means they have to act. They have to, we can actually get this done. And they rely on us feeling like there's no hope. if we feel like there's no hope and there's no point in getting involved, then they can get away with murder. Who's going to stop them? But like, we can. And that's kind of another like little thing that's been bubbling around in my brain on my walks as well, that my aspirations used to be like, particularly when I was younger, like really just about myself. Like, you know, I've got to attain a status in order not to disappoint my family, in order to meet the expectations that are put on like the child of migrants and the grandchild of migrants, you know, especially after a cataclysm of a genocide, and like, come here and work so hard and built stuff, and how are you going to fulfill this fucking destiny kind of thing? And it's all on me, on me, on me. And, you know, like, I'm not completely dumb or completely without talent, but I'm also not, you know, some sort of era-defining genius either, that I'm going to be able to meet those expectations in and of myself.
What?
Right? And I always kind of knew that, but it was also like, well, I'm really going to be letting a lot of people down here. And then just recently I've started to understand, no, that's not my fucking purpose. It's not actually about me and what I can attain. It's about how I can work with other people to make life better for other people, so that we're all in this together. This is my aspiration, to do what I can for others, and then we've all got a good.
Yeah. The intertwining and the being together, that's the journey is the goal stuff.
And to bring everyone along.
That's it.
Yeah. Yes, I was thinking before, maybe we should ask each other, what did we aspire to when we were kids, or what were in the 90s, what did we aspire for our lives, right? What were we thinking our lives would be? And like you, Alex, I think it was very driven by values and expectations, which is not about, where I grew up, it was not about acquiring wealth or property or any of that sort of stuff. It was more about what you're being in the community, and showing leadership and being civic minded and all of those sorts of things were kind of yeah. I remember I used to tell people, I just want to be well known for being good at what I do and maybe a famous writer.
Oh.
Not really. I just like Tim Winton.
Well, there's still time. You've got plenty of time to still be
I
a
do not
famous
have
writer.
No, unless there's software that will turn my micro dopamine into a macro piece of work. No. And there probably is now, isn't there? Actually, maybe we could talk about that later. Yeah. Claude. Claude. Yeah.
Lerna, what did you want to be when you grew up? Like, where were you in your aspirations as a kid?
When I was at school, career-wise, I always wanted to be a pediatrician, you know, help babies and everything. And then I did work experience in year 10, and the pediatrician I was with just literally chucked me in the NICU, in the deep end. And after one day I came home and said, oh no, this isn't for me. I can't do this job. So then I thought, maybe I'll do nursing. So then the same thing, I went and did nursing for a week. And then again, I realized from that I get too emotionally attached to people. And I cannot do anything in the health sector. So
good to know.
That's how it was. Yeah, thank goodness for work experience. So that's how I ended up in medical research. So, but I always wanted to just live near the beach. I just had to.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that was. I just wanted to live near the beach.
Oh, tick! You ticked that off.
It was very, very simple. I didn't have, and I've always kind of been like that. Maybe because I don't dream big enough. I don't know. But it's really simple. I just, be a mum, live near the beach, love people.
You're health sector adjacent, aren't you? Because you're working in stem cells.
Yes. Yeah. And now we're at the stage where we're doing, I guess we're in the translational stage where you're putting it into clinical settings and clinical purpose. So maybe that's how I was supposed to help cure disease that way. But yeah, so it's not until like I travel and I see how others live, or, when you're exposed to other settings, that I think, oh my God, this is just so beautiful. I wish I could afford to live like this. But then you come back and you head down and you just get back into your reality. And I just stay in your lane, don't think out of your lane, so you don't feel like you're missing out on anything. Like, because there's always going to be people better off than you, and there's always going to be someone worse off than you. So I've always been the person who focuses more on, I'm so lucky that I'm here in my lane.
Yeah. I would have liked to live in a forest in an amazing treehouse with multiple levels and rope pulleys, though. That would have been cool. Yeah. I know. Yeah.
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 My dad used to take me on walks when I was really little, and we'd have deep conversations, and he loved telling me like the kids' version of Asimov stories and whatever. And then I turned into a nerd. How did that happen? Anyway, so
Shocking.
on one of these walks, he goes, "So what do you want to be when you grow up?" You know, and he's hoping I'm going to say like Prime Minister or something like that. I go, "I want to be a pundit." He goes, "A what?" I said, "A pundit." He's like, "What's a pundit?" I said, a person who has opinions and they can boss people. And he's like, "Oh, pundit." And then he gets hysterical and laughs. Yeah, so anyway, like you probably never quite grow out of that, but you learn your own fucking limitations.
Yeah, that's true.
I was thinking, I wonder if, because I'm a first generation Australian and I'm the parent of migrants, whether my dream circle of what is a possibility for me was very small as compared to, say, if I was born to an established, multi-generation Australian family, I might have had a greater circle of what my options are and my possibilities are for someone like me.
Yeah.
I often think
that's
of
fascinating. That. Yeah. Yes, so maybe it was fairly modest for the first and second generation migrant cohorts. Like I do think my grandparents and parents would have been the same. Their ambition was just to have a backyard, right, with a lemon tree and a trampoline.
So our migrant experience is like really different, because my dad was born in a DP camp, and my mum, like both parents are kids of Holocaust survivors, who came out here in 1948. But they had this like unique point in history and luck where they were part of this really tight-knit Jewish community that was like they would give each other interest-free loans and be like really like lifting each other up and putting expectations on them. And they came from merchant family background, so they had this kind of like business thing inculcated in them. And I feel like to an extent my parents got in with a bad crowd, right? Because what would happen was my grandparents' generation, they'd like be in business, they'd make a lot of money, and then they'd expect their children to become professionals, but like not just professionals helping the world, professionals making a fuck ton of money. And then the third generation was meant to be Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And this is not an exaggeration, right? So what actually happened to Generation 3 of all the people I grew up with? I am one of the most notable, and I am not a notable person. We were so sickened, like literally soul sickened by this pressure of aspiration. Most of the people I grew up with have suffered serious mental ill health. And so despite all the conceivable advantages, have not been able to kind of achieve, because what achievement were we meant to do? It wasn't to make the world better. We took a lot of wrong lessons from the genocide as well, that only the fit survive, only the lucky survive. And it's all, for our family's honour and our own honour, but there's no sense of broader collective honour.
Yeah.
And this, I must say, this is not the entire, God forbid, community. This is like a subset of the community that I grew up in. And there are lots of, working class people in the Jewish community as well. So just really want to put that out there. But yeah, that was my experience.
It's really interesting. I had never thought of it that way.
Yeah, that's really powerful. In the notes, Alex, you've got a question here, which I think is a really interesting one. What's the difference between status and honour?
I've got lots of thoughts on it, but I don't want to put them out there before I hear your thoughts, both of you, on it.
I haven't thought about it.
Okay.
What about you, Sonia? Let me think.
I think status is about self and honor is about responsibility. So it's an inward focus versus an outward focus. That's what I think. Yeah.
All right. I'll say the same.
We all agree. Wonderful. And so then in regard to a group of people, then honor makes people responsible for taking care of each other, and status makes people seek to acquire things for the self, to strengthen and fortify the self. Ego versus the opposite of ego, which is selflessness. Yeah. I could see how nurturing one versus the other would change the shape of a society completely.
And like status is, it has to be zero sum. Like it's always one person on top of another, always. So status is vertical, whereas honor is horizontal and circular as well. My husband gave this speech at my first kid's baby naming when she was born. And it took me until literally this year to understand it properly. So we named her after this Middle Eastern mountain goat. And he said that his vision for her is to be like the goat who climbs the mountain and reaches the heavens, because everyone thinks the lion down below is so sexy and so interesting, but the lion is tethered to the ground. He can never reach the heights of the goat. And then as I've been thinking more and more of the Second City stuff with both of you, I've been thinking, what is the goat? The goat is a herd animal. It has its strength in numbers. They protect each other. Whereas the lion, there is only ever one alpha male lion, and he always, always, always meets his end violently or through like some sort of death, right? There is always a younger alpha who's going to kill him because there can only ever be one, and it's always nasty. The goats don't have to have that. Some of them get unlucky, but that's not how they live.
I love that your daughter is named for this agile, curious, exploratory mountaintop creature. That's so gorgeous. Yeah. How fantastic. So what helped you understand that this year? What are the situations that made that land for you this year?
Work and both of you.
True.
No, serious. Like I can have lots and lots of thoughts about lots and lots of things, but they will be murky and ill-defined until I can talk it through with the two of you and my husband, folks at work. Like it's other people that make me understand
Our
the
village.
importance of other people, right?
Yes, yes.
And, walking a mile in that other person's shoe and seeing and hearing a different perspective and seeing it from a different angle.
Yeah.
It's like one of my favorite movies is Dead Poets Society, and I showed it to my kids, and my youngest daughter she absolutely loves it too. But, when Mr. Keaton says stand on the table and look at the world from a different point of view. And the way that, and like that movie, I don't know if you've watched it ever since you were a kid and it came out, it is shot so brilliantly. The cinematography and the way that each scene is shot is just so well done. And I think, just seeing the world from another angle, from somebody else's eyes, listening to a thought and opinion different to yours. As Alex said, like I used to be not as open-minded until and accepting of everybody, and I didn't understand how people can think like that or how can they vote like that. Alex especially helped me understand. She'd say, oh, I had this group and they're not like that. This is why they think like that. And I grew as a person because of Alex.
It's back on Netflix in case you're curious, Alex.
Dead Poets?
Yeah,
Is it?
It's back. I just saw it this week, which is why it's like, it's a zeitgeist. Here it is. Yeah.
Oh, Captain, my captain.
Oh, Captain, my captain.
Oh,
and that
such a
thing
good
where he
movie.
leans into the photos of the past.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's so
Just
powerful.
the whole
Yeah.
way it's shot, when he's putting his crown of thorns on the on the snow and just the wind blowing. It's just such a beautiful movie.
Carpe diem. Yeah.
Such a beautiful movie.
Yeah, it is. So what you're describing makes me think about something that I've been thinking about, which is this idea that we tend to village ourselves with people who are the same as us. And we find little tribes, and I understand why we do that. And obviously there's real comfort in finding people who are like us. That's what we do on the internet, of course. But there's also, when I picture a village, and you know I'm obsessed with Richard Scarry, I picture a village where there's a worm, there's a cat, there's a dog, there's a sausage, and all of these different entities are in the same place trying to figure out how to live together and learn each other's different way of being and thinking. And I think when we are in our local community and outside and about and shopping in our little local grocer and whatever, we're much more likely to encounter different people. Like, I go on a morning walk every day with my dog. I don't take my phone. There are people that I've gotten to know better than I probably know, friends, because I see them every single day, and we have little chats every day about life and how we're living together in our a lovely little burb. And this morning I was talking with Morris and Sarah, who I met because my dog liked them and tried to get adopted by them. And what a loss it is if we no longer have a way of life that puts us into contact, direct human contact with people who are really different from us, so that we can learn each other's different ways of being. And then it makes me think that maybe aspiration, like you were saying before, Alex, isn't a destination, but it is the journey.
And hopefully, going on from that, this big build that the state government's doing, if they can implement that really well, it could end up with each build that you make. Hopefully, if they could have the vision to do it like villages, like set up as villages.
I so desperately hope they do, yeah.
Not as just some, multi-story
endless
apartments
burbia.
and that's it. Yeah. Put your gardens in there, put socializing places in there, not just a concrete slab. Like, it's got a great vision if you implement it properly. You need transport, you need facilities, you need infrastructure. I think it's a great idea if you can make it work with second city thinking.
Yeah. I think so too.
And different kinds of people will be living in those apartments and those buildings. There'll be young people, there'll be downsized retirees, there'll be, migrants, there'll be new people in the country, there'll be established people.
Yep. So public housing or social housing could deliberately put people of different economic statuses living alongside each other. I think deliberately designing communities to do that is really critical. And then that, I suppose, creates different ways of aspiring as well. I read that article that you put notes from, Alex. Like, I tried to read it. It's a hardcore fiscalization, financialization, economy stuff. And it makes me think about how, because, Lerna, we're talking about creating community centres around often marketplaces of trading. Mm-hmm. But when we live in an economy that's not a marketplace anymore, it's a financialised system where it's not things that make money. It's not even labour that makes money. It's only money that makes money. Then you've no reason to go out into community in the marketplace, because you're not doing any of that stuff anymore. And I was reading that something like 30% of uni graduates in the US, sorry, I'm using a lot of US statistics because they're the ones I'm seeing in my feed, but I bet it's similar here in Australia, are finding themselves unemployed after graduating. And what they're doing to make money instead of finding jobs is that they're investing what little they have to make money off of their money. So increasingly we're having wave after wave of new worker coming into the workforce and not entering a workforce, but actually entering this fiscalized structure of economy as well. So there becomes almost this mythical orb of not a real thing.
Well, it's a fucking Ponzi scheme apart from anything else, because, people are talking about the AI bubble. Like, AI will prove very useful in all sorts of fields. Like, I'm not a complete AI skeptic by a long shot, but what's going on now with the valuations and the circular investment in there is absolutely bubble conduct. And sort of AI is what's juicing everything at the moment. And with people only being able to make money from money, the second that bubble bursts, we are fucked. We are so fucked. So my Temu love, why do I love Temu? Like, there's actually something a bit serious behind it. When I was growing up, there used to be lots of little shops in places selling really interesting little things. And you could buy a little thing every so often for not very much money. And there was beautiful, like, artisanal shit around. And no one can afford to do that anymore because property is hoarded by landlords who charge exorbitant rents that small business owners cannot afford to pay. So you cannot have small creatives afford to have little shops anymore. You know, because I'm not a classy person, I love material culture. I love the culture of ordinary people. I don't enjoy museums. I don't enjoy high art or any of that stuff. I love to see what like normal people make and do and sell and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I actually don't want that to be seen as something lesser than appreciating, you know, fucking Da Vinci, whatever. It's still human genius and human endeavor and human creativity. And there's just less and less space for it now because, you know, even space has been financialized like this.
Yeah, go the crafters. I should take you to visit my mum's house.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. She's like who's that? MacGyver. She's like the MacGyver of grandmothers. She can make anything out of anything.
I used to love that show. His rubber band, piece of string.
Or is it a helicopter? Yes. I mean, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I love that breaks down classism as well, Alex, because not everybody has access to either intellectually, culturally, or fiscally to that high-end art stuff. But we're all still creators. We're all still creative with the capacity to create and show and tell, right? We all have a right to show and tell. Yeah, yeah.
And you know, these bubbles that burst, like they're interesting sociological phenomena. Like we've had. You know, in my lifetime, a few big recessions, and the big recession in the 1990s completely transformed the socioeconomic status of my family, and it unfortunately took me far too long to kind of develop an understanding of how any of this shit works, and so I didn't realize like. We were just, even though we were doing well at one point, we were just buffeted by these same trends, and the ultra wealthy stay ultra wealthy, but it's the people kind of in the middle who get tossed or pushed down. Like, and so that article that you were referring to before talks about the K kind of curve. So you've got fewer and fewer people able to go right up there, and most of the people are sliding down in terms of their standard of living.
Yes, yeah. So 10% of the population are buying new holiday homes and going to Europe on those holidays, Luna. Yeah, living in those houses that you visited.
Like when you know, don't watch Grand Designs anymore. Don't show me those. So
and the rest of us, that's right, hiding from Grand Designs. Yeah. Yes. So the bubble thing frightens me, Alex, because as I mentioned, our own Prime Minister has invested an additional $1 trillion of Australian superannuation into the US economy. There's also enormous amounts of $2 billion in missile companies, another $1 billion in expanding the US submarine base. Australia is spending $1 billion, this is what it says, to expand the US submarine base. Yeah.
Again, choices. Choices.
Yeah, choices.
These are not second city aspirational choices that our government is making.
These are, that's right, exactly. This is building status in the first city. Yeah, this is not second city thinking.
Shit status. Like, we're never going to be top dog in the great geopolitical competition anyway. We're like status as the fucking deputy to the US, which is crumbling anyway. And, you know, the US is the basis of its economic strength was that it was the global currency. And because Trump has this really like childish, basic non-understanding of how any of this shit works, he's really going hell for leather at devaluing the US dollar and trying to alter the US's economic position in the world they've got this ballooning debt crisis. They've got people who are going to starve because of their ripping up of the, flimsy social safety net that previously existed. They've got an AI bubble. Like, there are so many chickens coming home to roost here.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to build my city with them at the moment.
No, and I don't understand why our leader is, fawning over him. Like, it's, those two dogs. Hey, boss. There was that big bulldog dog and the little yappy dog next to it. I can't remember their names. So I think it was Sylvester and someone. You go, hey, boss, can we do this, boss, or whatever? Yeah, Australia, we're that little yappy dog next to the bulldog going, hey, boss, can we do that now, boss? Trying to get him to have respect for us. It's like, really? Yeah.
Brilliant.
This is the person you want to get respect from.
Yeah. Make a meme.
Yes. Yeah, you're really good at doing those graphics. You just change their faces.
Yeah, truly. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's where we're
All
at.
right.
We have to end on a hopeful message.
Yes. So the hope that I have in this moment is that intellectualizing it isn't the path, but doing of it is the path, that actually being together and nutting through these things together in our community and learning to love each other is the way that we imagine together and create together a new world. So go out and do this second city.
Yeah. It's like when you're writing the show me, don't tell me.
Show me, don't tell me. Yeah.
Or someone was saying, I think, with regard to Zoran Mamdani's campaign in New York, that politics is not something you have, it's something you do, right? And a lot of people don't like politics for, like, really understandable reasons. But what if politics wasn't what the cunts do? What if it's what people like us do?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's honestly the only good bit about it. Is the us.
And speaking of all that, like, awesomeness, like, I've seen a bunch of us's all over the world, from Nepal to Madagascar to Moldova to Hungary to you name it. Gen Z has had a fucking gutful.
Haven't they?
They've been told hustle, 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 and you'll get there. They've been told go into student debt and you'll get there. And they know it's bullshit. And what they're sick of is the corruption, and they're sick of the gaslighting, and they're sick of just being sold a reality that has not existed for, like, ever, right? This neoliberal conception of, like, the market's all sorted out, and if you just work hard and do all the right things, then the market will make you rich. And they've seen, no, the market makes an increasingly small cohort really rich while we eat shit. And they're saying we're just not doing it anymore. And there's varying levels of success. Like, also Peru, like, just literally all over the world, Gen Z has said enough, right? They're coming together. In Nepal, they had such a massive win that they're now, Gen Z's, de facto running the government through Discord, right? Like, fuck, we can do this. We can do this. We've got so many advantages, particularly here in Australia, if we come together for a fairness agenda, right?
Yep.
We can do this.
Yes.
Fairness is our whole thing. That's our whole Australian shtick. I like it. All right. Gen Z, the kids are all right.
I reckon that's good. Yeah, we're going to end it with the fairness bit.